Guy Lundy, Accelerate Cape Town is the organisation through which I met Gay I met through her work at Parliament. Guy I met through Accelerate South Africa, Cape Town, and he writes in Business Day Live today. He's now a partner with a company called Odgers Berndtson. It is important to remember that although the road is rocky and we're not growing nearly as fast as we need to or have the potential to, South Africa is still moving forward. And my guess is if you polled the first 10,000 people who are listening to us at the moment and said, is South Africa moving forward or is South Africa moving back? My guess is that somewhere around 9,500 of those, maybe even more than that, would say, moving. Have you lost your mind, Guy Lundy?
Hi, John. No, I haven't lost my mind.
So, defend this position that the road is rocky, but it is a forward-moving road.
Well, I mean, the reality is that although we're growing at a relatively slow pace by comparison to our neighbors further north of us, we are still growing, and we are probably still keeping ahead of our population growth. So on net growth, we are continuing to move forward, and we continue to use that growth to provide services, to provide infrastructure, etc. Not at the pace that we should be, or that we would ideally like to, but going into decline is something I would always argue we have not reached that point yet.
But we might. Tito Mboweni is the latest, who said yesterday we are at risk of deep recession, and he used the phrase deep recession if we don't get our electricity sorted out to sweet, and that ain't going to happen, Guy.
I agree that it's very important that people like Tito Mboweni continue to make us aware and continue to raise those points, particularly coming from somebody like him who has very deep insight into the political situation in the country, has been very involved in the economic situation, etc. So it's very important that we continue to remind ourselves of the possibility of disaster, if you like. But it is also important for us to remain realistic about where we are. I think we as South Africans have always had a tendency to fall into the doom and gloom mentality. And that is very often self-serving. So when one is very negative about the future turns out to be negative. So it's important for us to maintain a balanced view, be very aware of the challenges that face us, but also be aware of the opportunities that we have.
So, for what individual business owners, people who own small and medium-sized and large companies might be thinking, whatever expertise I have is in taking the pulse of individual citizens of Cape Town. And I get very little sense that there are any significant number of them that see opportunity. But maybe it's different for business. You know, maybe... But yeah, businesses, why should I expand? Labour problems, declining. Yeah, all right, there's a bit more money coming in because it's not costing them as much to put petrol in their car, diesel in their cars as it used to be. But no electricity. Opportunities? What? What opportunities, Guy Lundy?
Well, I think one of the major opportunities that we have in South Africa is getting involved in the growth story north of us. So if you look at countries like Zambia, like Kenya, and so many more, there is significant growth taking place. And South African companies are very well positioned to be a part of that growth. The ones that don't get involved in what's happening north of us are going to be the ones that will struggle because they are going to get stuck in a slow-growing, fairly mature market. Those that see opportunity north of us, like companies like Shoprite and so many others, amongst the big ones, but there are many, many smaller companies that have also ventured out into Africa who have benefited from 10-12% growth in many of the countries that they're operating in. So I think it's important to take the mindset, a much more global, much more continental mindset that many companies in Cape Town and South Africa have had for so long.
Can you do that if you're a small micro enterprise? You employ 6 or 7 people, you making an interesting kind of garden furniture in a place in Epping, and you have all these electricity problems, and how do you think global? How do you think positive? How do you think about growth in that sort of setup?
I think one of the things that one has to do is to start to reach out and look beyond the immediate market. So some of our clients that are in the kind of smaller to medium-sized space take the time to go out and identify a particular market. I'm certainly not suggesting that you go spreading across the continent willy-nilly. I wouldn't suggest that to any company of any size. But identify a market where there's growth and there's opportunity. Go in, spend some time, and look at where you can fill gaps. You know, if you look at a country like Zambia, there are gaps in some of the most basic products, be it irrigation or palisade fencing or a whole range of things that we take for granted here that they just simply don't have access to there.
So don't give up. Don't give up, says Guy Lundy, whether you're an individual or a small business or a medium-sized business. Don't give up. The road is going forwards, rocky, big boulders, but